Hello and welcome to A Sense of Centerville in Washington Township, your place for stories about ordinary and extraordinary residents and places in the Centerville and Washington Township area. I'm Susan from Centerville-Washington History, and I look forward to hearing your story. Today my guest is Jim McCutcheon. Jim is well known throughout the region as the Guitar Man. He plays a variety of fretted instruments and hosts a local radio program featuring guitar music. He holds a bachelor in physics and a master's degree in music education. Jim has an extensive resume of contributions to the world of music through the Dayton area. In 2017, he received the Governor's Award for the Arts. Jim is co-owner of McCutcheon Music Studio in Centerville. Thanks, Jim, for being here today.
It's great to be with you.
I appreciate it. So I have been a fan of yours for the whole time we've lived here in Centerville, and I really appreciate you being here today and sharing part of your story with the community. Please share how your musical journey began.
It began with a love of music when I was a youngster. Back in Pittsburgh, I remember around the age of 7 or 8, my older sister would listen to music of the Kingston Trio and the Brothers Four, and these were post-college guys with baritone voices, and I wanted to be them. And I loved the way they played guitar, and I liked the music that they sang and harmonized with. I liked the stories that it told and the way it all felt, and they all seemed to be having such a good time making music together. I just wanted to do that. So one day I found a ukulele in a closet, which was not my closet. It was the family room closet, and I figured I was part of the family, so I should be allowed to go in there. And I didn't know what it was, and I remember taking it out and asking my family, "What is this?" My big sister said, "Oh, Daddy bought that for me when I was 8 and you were 1. She had just had her tonsils out, and Dad bought it so maybe to take her mind off how bad she was feeling. And she said, by then I was 8, she was 15, and she said, "Do you want me to show you how to play it?" I said, "Yeah." So she showed me how to read the diagrams and gave me a little book of folk songs, and I sat cross-legged on the floor for hours just playing and singing and then trying to play and sing at the same time. I remember that a lot.
Were your parents musical as well? Like, did somebody in your family, did you sing songs together?
Not really so much that, but my mom was a very expressive amateur pianist, and she played about a half a dozen songs really well. And they were mostly popular songs like Tenderly or September Song. And looking back, she was really very good and very expressive. And my dad had a big singing voice and had played trumpet in his younger years.
So you did have a musical family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting to me as a young child that you could pick it up so quickly. That shows that you had natural ability and talent.
Yeah, I think interest.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Definitely. So how did it turn from an interest into a career?
Well, it was an interest, and my parents made me wait 3 years before they would get me a real guitar. And we moved to Dayton in 1961. And that was kind of traumatic for me. And I think they finally said, "Okay, you've been asking for a guitar for a long time. We'll get you one." And they said they would pay for lessons and take me there as long as I practiced 1 hour every day, no hassle. And so I started taking lessons, and I downtown Dayton, and I remember getting better for 3 years. And then by the time I made it to high school, I was unable to progress for reasons unknown to me. It turns out my teachers at that point 50 years ago just didn't have the technical knowledge to let me play classical guitar. And so I went through all 4 years of high school not getting one iota better. I kept taking lessons and kept practicing my hour a day, but I didn't get any better. So I figured I was just really not cut out to be a guitarist. And So I went to college at UD and studied physics because I liked science and math. I could do it, and I figured I better have some way to earn a living at the other end of college. So I did 4 years there, and I enjoyed it, but I guess significantly along the way, they had a coffee house, and I got to play at the coffee house. And then I also had the good fortune to have one lesson every year with a touring concert guitarist named Bunyan Webb, and he was here thanks to Jack DeVilbus, who was instrumental with the Living Arts Center and with Sinclair College. And they were Army buddies, I think. And Bunyan had gone to Europe as a Farsi translator with a degree in psychology, but he had gotten to study with some of the world's greatest classical guitarists. And he was really good. He was the first real classical guitarist that I ever got to hear. And so I got to take one lesson every year with him when his tour would bring him through Dayton. And we would have a marathon lesson. And he would say, okay, this is what you have to know for next year. And I would have it. And and by the time I graduated in physics, I was playing flute in a band and a little bit of guitar, but mainly the flute. And the band had a chance to sign with an agent. And I was accepted to medical school, and I said, what do I do? And the med school contact said, oh, we'll give you a 2-year window. And he said, when you finally grow up and know what you want to do with your life, you can come to my school. Well, I guess I never grew up, because that 18-month tour, I was doing music 65 hours a week and loving it and really getting energized from it. And so I listened to that and went back to Wright State. And 3 years later, I had a degree in classical guitar.
Wow.
And I was the first degreed classical guitarist in Montgomery County. So I trudged over to UD, to the Dean of the Arts Department, and said, you need a classical guitar teacher here. And with a bachelor's degree, they hired me because I was sort of on the leading edge of that degree. And I also got hired at Sinclair and Antioch. And Wright State actually invited me to come back and teach there. So I was able to put together all these part-time positions and earn a living for my family.
That's awesome. I mean, you have to work really hard to be a musician. It's as everything that you want to be good at, you have to work very hard at.
Yeah, and I think if you're going to try to make a living in the arts, it's very challenging. You really have to believe in your work, and you have to enjoy it. It has to pull you to a point where you don't even count the hours, and you I don't know, but that's what music did to me, and I think I was smart to listen to that, because I never ever wake up and think, oh no, I've got to go teach music today. That never happens. Never happens.
And that's the difference, yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So because you did study physics ahead of your musical journey, how does that help you become a better musician?
Well, in some really interesting ways. A number of people come up to me and say, oh, well, math and music, they're two, that they go together. And I go, yeah, they do. And I think the main thing that I've discovered is that you have to do either of them about 16 years before you're any good at them. I mean, to do them on a professional level, you got to go through high school and then through college, and then you're pretty good at math or science. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the key things they have in common is stick-to-itiveness. Mm-hmm. And it is kind of work, I guess, in terms of just the actual application of physical principles to playing music. There are a lot of those, because especially on the guitar, you can pluck down near the bridge and get a certain set of harmonics, and then up over the fingerboard and get a mellower set. And it's nice understanding how those harmonics work and how a guitar responds to your touch. And then other things that I think are really interesting are you can apply sort of mathematical principles to some of the expressive elements of music. Like if you're going to make a crescendo, are you going to go straight up like a graph, or are you going to go up like this, Are you going to go like this? What are all those different shapes, those exponential curves and kinds of things that you learned about? How can you apply those to dynamics and how loud and soft you play? How can you apply those shapes to how fast and how slow you play? So you come to the end of a phrase and you're going to make a retard. And is that retard going to look like that? Or is it going to look like that? Or is it going to look like that? Or some combination of shape in when you play your notes. And every one of those different shapes has a different feeling. So when I go to play a phrase, I have a lot of things I can choose from. And I just sort of choose whatever the music's telling me at the moment. But that I think is a pretty fun thing to think about.
I do. I love that. And I think it's really interesting how people who are musical or artistic focus on those little details to express a thought or a feeling.
Well, there's a lot of detail to it. Mm-hmm. And I often compare music to the spoken language, because in the spoken language, actually, if you think about it, one of the things I love to do is help people learn to sing. Mm-hmm. Because of an experience I had back in the 6th grade. And that was not a good experience, but it turned out to be a very instructional experience. If you analyze the complexity of singing like a song versus the complexity of speaking a phrase or a sentence or a paragraph, speech is 10 times more nuanced than singing. And I think that's a really interesting thing. If you analyze the intervals of singing, do, re, mi, fa, so, they're these big steps. But the intervals of speech are very nuanced.
That's
true.
The
pitches that you make are very nuanced. And the pitches that you speak are very microtonal. They're just very subtle. Mm-hmm. And different ways that we use our pitch when we speak can make things mean a whole lot different things. And the way we accent our words, or the way or the rate at which we talk, mm-hmm. that has a lot to do with music, and it's much more complex, but we never think about it because everybody talks every day, all day long, and that's why we're so good at it. Mm-hmm. Because we practice it all the time. We practice talking all the time. So if you want to be expressive, we're able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that everyone can sing?
Absolutely.
They just need to learn how?
Absolutely. If you are normal physically and neurologically, mm-hmm. yes. I've not had the first student who could not get acceptably able to sing in public.
They just have to learn learn how to do it, to relax. And
well, it's actually very simple. I think it takes less. It takes about the same amount of coordination to sing a song as it takes to shoot a basketball through a basket. It's not a complex thing. It's not something that you're born with or not, and it's just a matter of training yourself and getting, first of all, flexibility, getting some coordination in the muscles that make your voice go up and down, and then getting feedback on are you on the right pitch or not. And that's what I do with students a lot, and it's very fun because a lot of students, a lot of people want to sing, but they just had a bad experience, or my sister got all the musical genes, I didn't get any, and that kind of attitude, and it's wrong. Mm-hmm. It's wrong. If you want to sing a song, if it looks like fun, you can do it, but having a little instruction helps. And yeah. Having been through a very bad audition in the 6th grade, where I stood up and sang in front of the choir for the 7th grade choir teacher, and everybody in the room, I closed my eyes and sang a song I liked, and everybody in the room was laughing at the end of it when I opened my eyes, including the teacher, and I did not get chosen for choir.
Oh no.
And so while that was a bad day, I learned a lot about how that feels, and I don't want anybody to feel like that ever. Yeah. So that's become one of the things I like to do when I work with students.
Making them feel safe to try new things.
Yeah.
That's the best kind of teacher.
Yeah.
Definitely. I have a question here about how did you learn to trust your instincts? Is there a story you could tell about that?
Well, the biggest trust of my instinct was saying no to the medical school and saying yes to a career in music. That was probably the biggest one, with my mother scratching her head and saying, I hope you know what you're doing, and I'm going, yeah, me too. I hope I know. While I was on the road, I realized I could do music 65 hours a week and still love it. Mm-hmm. I did not want to enter into a profession in music where I would hate having to get up or hate the financial restrictions I was imposing on myself. I just didn't want that to get in the way of my love of music. Mm-hmm. And so I just felt that if I can do 18 months, 65 hours a week, and still really be energized, I could work for minimum wage and survive. And so that was kind of the bottom line financially.
But fortunately, you haven't had to do it that way.
I still work that much,
yeah.
if not more.
Right.
But I don't call it work. It's just all these interesting things.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so great. I wish everyone had that. I mean, they could, but it's lovely. So I heard the story about during you had a TEDx Dayton talk, and can you talk about how thinking on your feet earned you a scholarship?
Oh,
Can you tell that story?
I was an undergrad student at Wright State, and the faculty came up with some extra money that they decided they would award as a scholarship on a performance basis. And so I went and signed up because I was a poor student at that point under my own power. And so I went to the sign-up sheet, and there was a pianist playing Bach and a violinist playing Brahms. So I signed up a guitarist playing McCutcheon, an original piece that I had.
It's risky.
Yeah. I figured, I like this piece and it sounds good, and I think it's a good piece. So I went into the audition at the recital hall, and I remember the faculty was sitting along the back. There were a whole bunch of faculty, and I introduced the piece as Spring Rondo, and told them I had written it, and I played it, and it was pretty good. And I was getting ready to go, and the music theory and analysis teacher leaned forward and said, Mr. McCutcheon, why did you name it that? And I said, well, I wrote it in the spring. It has a kind of springy, bouncy theme, and it's a rondo form. And he just said, well, Mr. McCutcheon, it is not a rondo. And I saw all that money disappearing into thin air, and I said, and for once, I was able to think on my feet. And I replied, well, that, sir, is why I need this scholarship.
It's a great story.
And I got it.
And you got it.
I was talking to Jane Varela, who was a longtime faculty person at Wright State and a longtime Dayton Philharmonic Orchestra member in percussion. And she was there. And I ran into her about 20 years after that at a restaurant here in Centerville. And somehow that came up. And she says, as soon as the door closed behind you after you left, everybody erupted into laughter. And I told my colleagues, anybody who can think on their feet like that gets my vote.
Oh, that was great. And you're going to share that music with us today.
I'd be glad
awesome. To. Okay, I'll go ahead and I think we're already set with our microphones, so we can go ahead and listen. That was lovely. Thank you so much. It was such
You're
a
welcome.
privilege to be able to have this performance just for me currently, and eventually for everybody else.
My pleasure.
It was beautiful, and it did remind me of spring.
Uh-huh.
So if it's not a rondo, what is it?
It's a
Now that you've had your
quasi-rondo.
education.
And now when I program it in my concerts, which I do, I call it spring rondo in quotes.
Got it. Okay. So it's something like a rondo.
Yeah, something like that.
That's great. That was beautiful. I
Thank
do
you.
love guitar music, and it's just so interesting how certain instruments you just love more than others. That it speaks to you. So, what do you love about the guitar?
Oh, I really like how you can do so many different styles of music with it. I came to it through pop music, and a lot of classical guitarists have done that. One of my students, who was a graduate at Wright State, came to it through the group Kiss. He loved the power of that strong rock music, and now he's a classical guitarist in Washington, D.C., and just played Carnegie Hall. And so, you come to the guitar, but the more you learn about it, the more you find that you can learn more. I'm still learning about it and related instruments. I like how you can pick up a banjo or pick up a mandolin. And if you play the guitar, you can sort of get going on those. And if you want to keep learning about those, you can. One of the things I like to do is go to schools and show kids a whole variety of fretted instruments, different guitars, like a steel string guitar, a 12-string, a classical guitar, and then the related fretted instruments like banjo, lute, mandolin, the charango from South America, the balalaika from Russia, all these different kinds of instruments that are from around the world, and you can have a lot of fun with them. And if you play the guitar, you can kind of come to those pretty quickly. So I like that. And just for guitar music, I like songs. I still sing and enjoy, James Taylor and the Beatles and other songs. I've written songs for kids and produced 3 CDs of music for children because I've done a lot of work in the schools, preschools up through high school.
Yeah, definitely. And they're very fortunate to have, live music. I think all children should have that opportunity to have that, be able to hear and see it together. That makes a big difference. How about the Science of Sound program? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I worked for many years with the Muse Machine, and a mentor of mine, Lorna Dawes, was executive director, and she encouraged me to kind of try to integrate my science training with my musical training, because Muse Machine does a lot of work with schools and bringing the arts to kids that they wouldn't normally get exposed to. And so we had summer teacher workshops that I was a presenter at for many years. And thanks to Lorna, I developed a program that talked about the science of music, that talks about things like waves, all the different kinds of waves there are, and how that relates to all the energy processes that happen to get music from me to you. Everything from the neurological, like electrical, chemical energy down through your muscles to pulling on the string, and potential energy, letting it go, kinetic energy and vibration into the wood and then into the air, making a compression wave and wiggling your eardrums and all that that happens. That it really is kind of interesting. So I used, I've been a ham radio operator since 7th grade. And so and one of the things I did as a physics major was projects in the physics of music. So I have an oscilloscope that the University of Dayton electrical engineering department graciously gave to me after they couldn't use it anymore because it was old school, but it was perfect for what I needed. So they gave me actually a bunch of equipment that they were just really going to throw out. And so I have signal generators and oscilloscopes, ways to look at the waves that sound makes. And
Is that what an oscilloscope is? It shows you the waves.
Yeah, it's
of
like
sound?
a little screen that has a little dot that goes across, and the electrical waves make it go up and down. So you have a visual display of what the sound actually looks like.
Okay.
So it's it's very visual, and you can get kids up there singing into microphones and going ooh and making a sine wave, and another kid comes up and goes ooh, and it's a sine wave, but it's a slightly different shape. So we talk about how every voice is unique, and then we make sounds, and then I hook up my electric guitar, and that's just an electrical generator. That's what an electric guitar is. It's a magnet with a coil of wire wrapped around it, and when the metal string vibrates there near it, it makes an electric current that you put into an amplifier, and that's how electric guitars work. So it's talking about those kind of concepts. I have a program for kindergartners. I do it every year at Oakwood at their kindergarten for kids, and it's all long and short and thick and thin and all those kinds of things with a bunch of different kinds of instruments, string instruments, woodwinds. I bring a family of flutes, like an alto flute and a C flute and a piccolo, and then different percussive instruments. And the kids in kindergarten get the state standards for science through music.
Oh, I love that.
And then I do a lot of work with fourth and fifth graders. They got to know about waves and stuff like that. So I do a number of residencies across the state for kids really of all grade levels up through, and even in high schools. I've been to Centerville High School playing and doing a program for their band and orchestra kids and their physics kids. So it's really fun, just talking on that level with those kids. And then Tech Fest happens every year. Tech Fest is a weekend in February where it's down at Sinclair College, where they have just like 80 demos for kids. And I'm one of them. I've done that for many years. One of my old physics teachers, Perry Yaney, from UD, was real organizer of that for many years. And so, that's another thing I do that's a lot of fun.
We loved Tech Fest when my kids were little.
Okay.
We would go all the time.
Okay.
Having a science family, that was definitely impactful. Hands-on things in science are just so powerful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun. I love going into the room and telling the teachers just hide your eyes. And then I say to the kids, okay, who here doesn't like math and science? And some kids will go like, and those are the ones I choose to come up and turn all the knobs and do stuff and get some attention that way, and realize that science isn't so weird, and maybe they ought to try it.
Yeah, the more interest we can make in it, people, we want hands-on. We want to touch, see, and those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Let's shift gears and talk about your radio program, The Intimate Guitar, which I love listening to. I really enjoyed that, and it's been since 1986 that
yes.
So how did that come about, and what have been the highlights of that program?
I was teaching at UD at that time for 10 years, and Richard Benedum was the department chairman, and he said, some of my friends and I are starting a radio station, and you might be interested in something like this. And so I went down and talked to them, thinking it's classical music, are they going to want a guitar show? But, it's classical guitar, and they were extremely receptive. So I've done that show every week since.
Wow.
And it started off in the basement of Hills and Dale Shopping Center, which is no more, and a little studio down in the dank basement. But it was a chance for me to do radio. I had done a radio show before at WYSO called Strictly Guitar. I used to teach at Antioch, and on my lunch hour, I would run over to the radio station, and while I had my lunch, I'd be spinning LPs of classical guitar and different kinds of guitar. So I'd had a little bit of experience doing radio, and I always wanted to do it when I was a kid. I always wanted to be a DJ for a long time. So it was kind of a fulfillment of a dream. And then this has been wonderful. The Intimate Guitar has been just a chance for me to affirm these great guitar players from around the world affirm their work and by having them on my show. And I remember when I made my first LP, somebody at WGUC played something from my LP, and I thought, wow, that felt great. And so I want to be that person for these artists. And so I have about 250 to 300 artists per year on my show, about 5 or 6 per week. And I always let them know if I can reach them. And that's most of them. I just say, hey, your program's going to be on my show. Check out this Facebook page and share it with your friends. And so now when I go to guitar conferences, I have all these friends, these people I've done favors for in a way, but they've done favors for me because they send me their CDs. And so I have about 2,500 classical guitar CDs in my basement. And so I have a chance to just have nice relationships with all these great musicians, and there are a ton of us around the world.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to listen to. And do you record it in your basement or somewhere else?
Yeah, I record it at home when I have time and upload it. And I have to say that the staff at Dayton Public Radio is the best. And they are the best. They're just great people who really believe in classical music and the value of classical music. And when you tune around the dials these days, it's nice to hear something, substantive, like we have on WDPR. I like it a lot. I just got done reading a book on the guitar in Europe in early 1800s. And it was funny because everybody played the guitar, but just like today, they did it for popular songs. They came to guitar for popular songs, and then some people wanted to really go on and play more complicated things on it. But times haven't changed.
It doesn't. It's the same stories over and over again. Definitely. Let's talk about building your business and how that's evolved. So you have 2 locations.
Right. We, my wife and I don't think we ever really planned on this, but my wife Debbie was very instrumental in a lot of ways. She wasn't a fan of me giving lessons in the house to start with, but so when we moved to Centerville in 1988, one of the first things we wanted to do was get some space to do lessons outside of the home, and we did this. And I was part-time at 4 colleges at that time, and I knew a lot of other part-time teachers who were teaching music, really excellent musicians. And if you're part-time at a university, you need multiple income streams. So these people needed places to teach, and so Debbie and I started promoting it for us, and we started getting teachers to sign on and take a day or 2 days, and we had a really nice staff of teachers from the get-go, and they were also people that I performed with in the area, and so it started as a totally teaching facility. We really didn't want to get into retail at that point, but pretty early on we realized that we couldn't get support from the area retailers for the things that we needed to have, the method books we needed or the instruments that our students needed. We tried to really work with everybody, and it just didn't work. So we decided, well, we should really start carrying music. And so we started carrying music and the method books that our teachers needed. And so all our retail started as a support for our teaching. After that, my younger son was in junior high, and he was very self-sufficient. And my wife said, let's build the business. So she and I started to do band and orchestra instruments and got some training and just built the business that way. And we shared, I think, a philosophy of taking care of customers the way we wish we had been taken care of. And that's what sustained us. So now we have 60 private teachers, which is unbelievable. And we have a repair shop, which is just great. And we have an office staff that's on top of everything, and a sales staff that are musicians and nice people. So and we also have our 4 local grandkids taking lessons at the store.
Wow.
So we actually have a little family band.
What instruments do they play?
Trumpet, trombone, keyboard, and drums.
And so when you get together, what music do you play?
Chicago.
Oh, really? Oh, how
well,
fun.
with trumpet and trombone.
Yeah.
And so I play the guitar, and it's really very, very fun.
It is.
Very fun.
It is. They're so unifying.
It's not like we're as good as Chicago.
No. I understand. But I mean, music's not always for other people to listen.
Mm-hmm.
It does help your heart to be happy, and it's just fun.
And there's a sense of accomplishment when you hit that last chord and everybody's together. It's like, we got it.
Definitely. That's great. And I think that this is probably a good part to end on is you have said, I spend every day of my life making music. I love to do that. Can you share some of your favorite experiences making music?
Every concert is an experience. Every concert is wonderful. I had for the last 2 years, I've been at Woodburn Library, and I've just had a really nice time in their community room, playing music that I like. And I guess I have a lot of things that are very special. I think getting the Governor's Award was really nice. Having and that's up on my my YouTube channel. Very nice introduction and video that they did about me, and they kind of summarized a lot of stuff. I like being the teacher that I never had. For guitar, just knowing technique and being able to give my students the technique that held me back for so many years. And I like being the teacher to help kids and people, grown-ups too, learn how to sing. I just like being that chance for people to experience what music's all about. You know, we have we're all like governed by the clock and our schedules, and we have to be here at this such and time. And one of the things about music is once you start a piece, it's just going to take that long. And you don't hurry, and you just, in fact, you take extra time sometimes and think and feel and let silence happen. I mean, there are beautiful experiences that you can have with music, and I like helping my students get to that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I could sense you got a little teary-eyed, and I always cry when other people get, because we're talking about something so a part of your heart, you know, how music responds, makes us respond in ways. How do you transmit that love of music and that appreciation to somebody else? And you talked a little bit about that. You know, how do you instill that love of music in your student?
I start with finding music that they relate to.
Yes.
Which is what I had to do. I didn't start with classical guitar. I started with pop music and folk music and some rock music. And but I had to make a connection with music. And so what I try to do with students is while we're working on music that they like, giving them the technical foundation and when I talk about technique, it's all position and movement. And that's what I did not have up through high school. And I try to give them that so that no matter what style of music they end up wanting to play, they'll be able to do it technically. They'll be able to get those notes however they want and then do something with it. You have to learn to walk before you can dance. So I try to make the walking part as interesting as possible. I like to have my kids participate in a thing called National Federation of Music Clubs festivals, where they get to play for judges once a year. It's a little stressful, but it really makes them focus. And then after they get through festival, then we just do fun stuff for a while. But I try to give them a balance between the nitty-gritty of learning and feeling the music and having it mean something to them.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. I'm still working on it.
It is a balance, to make it interesting and fun, but improvement, because it is exciting when you can improve as well. So it's that balance.
I also like to give them a chance to play for people. And the store has 2 recitals every year, 2 bigger recitals, and then smaller, we call them showcase recitals, from time to time, just to give students of all ages a chance just to get up in front of people and play something. Sometimes it's for a dozen people. Our little showcase recitals are very small, but nice. And then our bigger recitals, there's at least 100 people out there in the audience.
That's wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about Guitar Fest and the Guitar Society. That's something that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. Guitar Society is just a loose-knit group of people who like guitar, all different kinds of guitar. And once a year, we present a public performance called Guitar Fest. It's usually about a dozen acts. Everybody plays for 15 minutes. And there's all different kinds of styles, from classical, jazz, and rock, cigar box guitars, and a variety of things. I'm working on getting a Hawaiian slack key guitarist in for this year. And it's just a free public performance where guitarists actually have a chance to get together, because we don't see each other during the year. We're busy. We're scrambling, teaching and playing. And this is a chance for everybody to get together and hear what everybody else is doing and appreciate each other. It's very positive.
Yeah.
And it's a chance for community members just to come and hear. It's normally at Stubbs Park.
So you're president of Guitar Society?
Yeah.
Just because
I'm
you
sort of
value
the central person.
Yeah.
And
is that a Ohio thing, or is it beyond Ohio?
Oh, it's just in our area.
In our area. Okay. Wonderful. Well, this has been so nice to hear you talk about music today, and I appreciate you being here and sharing some of your experiences. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you'd like to cover?
No, I just wanted to say that Centerville-Washington Township is a great place to make music and to have a store and to raise a family. We've done that, and we're just grateful for your interest in the music that we're making.
Definitely. I love interviewing people that have made an impact in the community, especially an impact in my family. We rented all of our instruments and we're often there. And so we appreciate the time that you've taken to build a business and to share music with the community. So thank you to MVCC for helping to produce this podcast. Also to my guest, Jim McCutcheon. If you have an interesting story about Centerville or Washington Township, please contact Centerville-Washington History. Please also visit our museums in Uptown Centerville and follow us on Facebook and Instagram, or visit our website at centervillewashingtonhistory.org. Thank you and goodbye.